You are welcome here, just the way you are. No more hiding tears, no more covering scars. You are welcome, holy welcome. You are welcome here, just the way you want to be. Bring your deepest hopes and all your wildest dreams. You are welcome, holy welcome, holy welcome. You are welcome here, just the way you are. No more hiding tears, no more covering scars. You are welcome. There's something in the air, the dream of life in love, with minds that rest in prayer, sparking joy we're in awe. No matter where your path has been or time will somehow flies, like souls will come home again, true friendship ever thrives. Is this where the magic happens? Can you feel the farce revealed right now in you and me? The secret is wherever we are. There's something in a smile that can turn a day around. Moments so worthwhile when we find common ground. No matter what the day might bring, right here we can align, knowing that we will be seen as perfect, whole, divine. 'Cause this is where the magic happens. Let's feel all the hearts, close to me and me to you. The secret is wherever we are. So meet me where the magic happens, feeling all the hearts ignited now in you and me. The secret is wherever. The secret is whenever. The secret is together we are.
Good morning. Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We are Centers for Spiritual Living St. George, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our Sunday service of this new year. So Centers for Spiritual Living St. George is an open and loving, and it's an inclusive community, and it supports thinking creatively and living a deeply spiritual life. We do cherish our values. Our values are love, freedom, participation, enthusiasm, acceptance, contribution, cooperation, and of course, if you know me, humor. And today our service team will be Marina behind the scenes doing her magic and getting the service to you this Sunday. Myself, Chris McCardle, and Shay Barlow is going to be doing our music. She's on her way, coming up next. Bill will lead us with the invocation. Star will be doing the actual reading today. And then the message itself will be given by Reverend Joe. So let's bring some music into the program this new year. Shay, where are you at? There you are.
Hello, Chris. Good
Happy
morning.
New
So
Year.
glad to be here. Happy New Year to you. So
Okay,
we're
take it
going to
away.
go ahead and we're just going to bring in just this centering song by Michael Gott, There Is Only Love. And I'm going to go through the first verse, and then Bill will join and he will share the invocation. And then I'm going to invite you to sing along. The lyrics will be on screen and you can sing along, read along, whatever you're so inspired to do. In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and see there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets me free. There is only love.
So for this first affirmative prayer of the year, I know that there is only love, because that is all there is. And that is all God is that love. And that love fills me as I walk my everyday life, and as I pray and as I live. And as we are all one, I know that we are all filled with that same unconditional love of God, that unconditional love that makes everything work. This is what I know about today's service. I know that it is blessed. I know that everything that transpires today is from love and is of love, and that makes everything harmonic and moving forward in just the right balance. I just release my word, knowing that it is all good, and let it be so. And so it is.
So it is. When I lose myself, when I feel I've lost my way, when I go inside and quiet my mind, I hear Spirit gently say, there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love love that sets me free. There is only love, and I know this voice of love. It is singing through my life. It is all I am, every part of me. It is all I choose to be. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets me free. There is only love. And now I'd like to welcome to the service Star Sterrett. Star is going to share a sacred reading today. Good morning, Star.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Okay, this is from a book that I dearly love. It's Yeshua, the Early Years, and the chapter is Grace as Reality. All of you know that the energy of seeking and doubting. But do you know you have the power to find? Always and forever, the truth remains this: the kingdom of heaven is within you. Will you then dissect the body to find it? Of course not. For if you would well receive it, the body you seem to carry does not house you, you house the body. It arises from within you and from within the choices you have made in your access to the infinite mind. That Christ is. You have chosen, therefore, the body, this time frame. You have chosen it. It has not been forced upon you by any means. The kingdom of heaven is indeed within you. It lies as a jewel placed gently on the altar of the heart, with a capital H, whose first beat came from the breath of God breathed into it, long before there was ever such a thing as a body. The kingdom lies within you, that you have constructed out of your experiences and of all the beliefs and ideas that you have garnered in your journey through time and space. Within all perceptions, within all constructs that the mind holds, the kingdom is found. Silence is the threshold to this truth divine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Star. So welcome to 2023. We are excited for the new year. This year we are living out loud. This month, January, the theme is Root and Reboot, and today's talk is God is a concept. A concept. How often do we humanize God and make God look and feel and sound like us? Beloved Christian author Anne Lamont, she cautions us, writing, "You can safely assume you've created God in your own image when it turns out that God hates all the same people you do." In Science of Mind, of course, we begin our spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer by recognizing God. And in this month's Science of Mind magazine, practitioner Deborah Perdue wrote these beautiful words describing this idea of God. There is wondrous oneness everywhere, in and through everything and everyone. This divine presence animates and permeates every living thing, and everything in this multiverse is alive with spirit. This energy expresses as love beyond measure, as potent peace, wisdom, wholeness, divine guidance, and grand abundance. This next song uses the metaphor of the sun, not only referring to God, but to us as well. This is Only One. It's life itself that moves and breathes. And then as this thing called me, as a ray is partial to the sun, there is no I, there's only one. It's life itself that breathes and moves. And then as this thing called you, as a ray is partial to the sun, there is no other, only one. It's life itself that moves and breathes. And then as this thing called we, as a ray is partial to the sun, there is no us, there's only one. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. Like a ray is partial to the sun, no separation, only one. Okay, Chris, back to you, my friend.
Thank you. Have we heard that before?
No, that's relatively new.
Oh, we like it. We like it.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you. All right, everybody. All right, so our theme has changed for this year. Last year it was Living Everyday Wonder, and this year it will be Living Out Loud. Boy, that can go in a whole broad spectrum of ways, which I'm sure it will this year. Our theme for January is Root and Reboot, and today's talk will be given by Reverend Joe, and it was God is a concept. I like that. So let's bring on Reverend Joe and hear what he has to say. Happy New Year, Reverend Joe.
Happy New Year, Chris. What a fine morning. You're looking lovely.
Thank you.
Something new?
No, nothing new at all. Why do you ask?
Because you're a model of God.
Thank you.
Thank you for the instruction. Oh, good morning and Happy New Year. I'll say I can't believe, but it's January 1st, 2023. And I can still remember 1999 turning 2000 and thinking the whole world was going to end. And I was like, I'm going to stay home that evening and celebrate. And holy cow, what has changed since then? I'll tell you. So wherever you are, I'm hoping that you're feeling a newness, right? That's what the new year is. It's a sense of rebirth. And we have this new topic this year, Living Out Loud. That's fantastic. I'm excited about that. And like Chris said, where is that going to go? I got to give shout out to Shay with that song. I don't know. There's a band, a 90s band that's in my head that song kind of feels like it flowed from. That was awesome. We have such talent in our center. It's truly just a joy to be able to lead our center. And so with Centers for Spiritual Living as an organization, January, as it's called, Root and Reboot, because we take this month to kind of get back into some basic principle teachings. And we're coming right out of the chute with kind of a big one. This big idea, this big concept, which is God is a concept. We're going to use basic principles to back up this idea. And so I want to say first, let me just jump right in, right? So the first thing that came to me was this idea of a concept. And I remember early on, I was raised Roman Catholic, and coming into this philosophy, that was probably the most difficult transition to make, because I was brought up believing kind of that this God is kind of like this old man in the sky thing, and it's a being, and it's has its very own personality in a sense, and it's judging me and kind of things and leading me and protecting me and doing all these things. And the old man in the sky kind of idea, to use John Lennon's term, is dead. God is dead, as he said a while back. And it wasn't God itself, but God as this one being in a sense. Whereas now we're looking at spirit. Long live the spirit, the source. We call it the seat of consciousness. We now have so many new terms to open up to this idea, because the old man in the sky was a very limited idea, and it was spoken going back to when it came out. We look into the Bible and so forth, because that is what it was to them at the time. And like all things, consciousness evolves, and so our idea about what God is or source is evolves. And I said this last week, anytime we think we have a grasp on what it is, God is, we're not even close, because we don't. We're just an individualized aspect. I like the line in Shay's song, just as a ray is partial to the sun. I remembered it. That's a great line. A ray is partial to the sun as we are partial to source. We are that divine source. And we're going to look into that. And so we begin the year with an examination of some fundamental of the fundamental principles of science of mind. We're going to continue to look at and pull information from our text, Science of Mind, as well as its companion text, which is Living the Science of Mind. I hope you have both of those. The first Science of Mind and Spirit book is the first full product of Holmes, but then he came out with Living the Science of Mind, which put it into practicality, which is really good. And so we focused this month on the universality, of our teaching, and emphasize the fact that we are not only of spirit, but also in spirit. We are spirit expressing. We take a look at the idea of this all-giving, one, generous, compassionate, loving source. And as we do so, we're going to deepen our practice for the benefit and enrichment of all of humanity, because we're not separate from what humanity is. And as we gain understanding more about the individual, we gain more understanding about the whole. And so going back to principle, which is there is only one creative source, one supreme good, not one supreme being, but good. And that good, as we declare, is our life right here now. And going back to John Lennon, he had an album which was a song called God. And within that, there was a famous line, and it says, God is a concept by which we measure pain. And he believed that God was something different to everyone. And I believe the same. I'm going to use the example Avatar, the new movie that just came out. If you've seen it, every single person who sees it is going to have a different idea, a different experience of what that is and what it was like to them. And so how could we possibly have one idea of this thing that has created all things that we are an expression of? He also believed, John Lennon did, that people focus too much on the messenger and not the message, and on the teacher, but not what's being taught. In his songs like Imagine, he was trying to get the message that we shouldn't let religion and other things get in the way of our own life experience, about how, we can look at it as an example of a way to live, but we need to choose what's right for us. And so when we think of God as a concept, we free ourselves, in a sense, from any limitation, particularly of human religious history. So principle. Let's start out with the very first principle that we see in the We Believe statements. And that these, of course, were created by Ernest Holmes. And it's, we believe in God, the living spirit, almighty, one, indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation but is not absorbed by its creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is a logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. The logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. So what we believe is that everything that is comes from this one self-existent source, cause. It is living, and it is constantly, this whole idea of the universe is for it to get to know itself. Now, it could be, there are many other different ideas. That's the one that in New Thought that is followed. And so, in other words, instead of a God being out there, right, God as a concept, and then you noticed several times, sorry, that's okay, but Ernest Holmes and many call God as an itself. And that took me a long time to get used to. But I understand it, because it's not man, it's not woman, it's not a thing. It is kind of like I am that I am. It is what it is. So going back, sorry, but I just want to use that. Understand that just even myself, through all my studies, there are things that I've had to have it grow on me, like the more I do it. And there are still some things that I'm like, I can still think sometimes as God is a father, or God is mother, or mother, father, and it feel right to me. But even that, we're not doing it any injustice, because we're not really grasping all of it, what it is anyway. And what I know to be true is that all that God is definitely a loving, unconditional loving consciousness. So therefore, kind of like I look at it, because I'm in education, like kindergartens who say the darndest things. Often they'll call me by the wrong name. I don't get mad at them. I don't hate them for that. I don't even judge them. I just, sometimes I don't even correct them. I just say hello and good morning to them. And so I believe it's similar in that sense. And so going back to this idea, instead of a God being out there and it's a concept, this allows us to consider God as a creative force in our lives, kind of like, yes, Star Wars, the Force. It's there. It can be used. It's what all things are connected by. Technically, it's the essence of who we are. And in essence, it's a universal principle that exists in and through all people throughout all time. And there is, in essence, even there is no time. We use time as a measurement. Another way of looking at this comes from Eric Butterworth. Again, if you don't have any of his books, he's fantastic. But this one, The Creative Life, he says, when you turn within, centering your attention on God, the center and source of being, there will come a moment of faith's fruition. And that which you perceive inwardly, you will soon be seeing in the light of day. So he's saying that this truth, this principle that God is one, it can be found outside of ourselves, but only after we do that personal reflection. And we do that through meditation and contemplation. It's very similar to what Buddha taught, which was, to go within, and the answers are there. And once you find a universal truth, it's true for you, and it's true for all else, not just everyone else, but all else. This idea of Holmes often called God first cause. And I want to explain where that came from, because it's not, it can be tricky. So the classic Christian formulation of this first cause idea came way back from St. Thomas Aquinas, who himself was influenced by Aristotle. And he says basically that this idea of first cause, and to quote him, he says, must not be considered simply as the first in a series of continuing causes, but rather as first cause in the sense of being the cause for the whole series of observable causes. So it's not like the first domino that then causes and causes and causes. It's the domino, it's the room, it's everything included. Holmes talks in his essay, Why Talk So Much About God? And he notes there that all spiritual traditions are aware of this idea that God is a concept, that there is a divine intelligence that exists through and what they used to break it up into kingdoms: the mineral, the vegetable, the animal kingdom, and throughout all of humanity. We look at it as consciousness nowadays, thought, belief, and it all stems with this consciousness, which is all possibilities. Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was Ernest Holmes, looked up to him quite a bit in his teachings and his studies. He wrote about it in his essay called The Oversoul, and that's what he called it, this idea of God, this concept of God. He called it the Oversoul. And he wrote that the thing that is the unifying principle that brings everything together, that's what he called it as. Again, it's the thing that is the unifying principle that brings it all together. And within humanity, it is called, he says, it's the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one. So that's just kind of looking at things through history. And this idea of God is a concept. It's moldable, it's malleable in the sense to who you are, where you're brought up, your culture, your environment, and so on. And again, as mentioned, that we're not the only faith philosophy that follows this. The Upanishads, from which are the Hindus use the Upanishads to look at the Vedic Sanskrit texts, and to share something from what they say. It says this. They refer to it as Brahman, and this as an eternal, conscious, irreducible, infinite, omnipresent, and the spiritual core of the universe of finiteness and change. So that sounds very similar to what Ernest Holmes says. What? It's eternal, it's eternal and infinite. So it's all life, all death, it's consciousness. It cannot be reduced, meaning all things are it. It's omnipresent, meaning it's everywhere present. And we know this even with our science today. We're proving that with quantum physics. And it's at the spiritual core of the universe of finiteness, meaning our reality, our finiteness, what some call the body of God, and change. So it's all one. And we can look at the Quran from Islam, and it says He is Allah, the creator, the inventor, the shaper. He alone has the most beautiful names. Whatever is in the heavens and the earth constantly glorifies him, and they use a pronoun, and he is the Almighty, all-wise. So again, we go back to this all-knowing, all-loving source of all life and all that is. Pretty fascinating. And to really nail this principle down, I'm going to go back to Ernest Holmes. I know it's a lot of quotes, but the idea is to understand that it's not just our philosophy. This is a universal understanding. So another way of saying it for Ernest Holmes is spirit is the Father, Mother, God, because it is the principle of unity back of all things. So it's the yin yang symbol is another idea of what he's saying there. The masculine and the feminine principles both come from the one. Spirit is all life, truth, love, being, cause, and effect. It is the only power in the universe that knows itself. The only power. So if I know something and I see something, this is God recognizing God, spirit recognizing spirit. To continue, the spirit could know nothing outside of itself. Outside itself. That would be God and something else. Spirit is all, the center and the circumference of everything that exists, both manifest and unmanifest, meaning created and not created. Because what quantum physics is showing is that even within the space between physical things, it's alive. Again, going back to Star Wars idea of the force, it's there. Kind of like if you're in the ocean, right? There might be a beautiful coral and then space, but the water fills that space, just like spirit does. And so I just want to this is a big concept. I get it, a big big topic. And so just kind of make some light points here to grasp of, especially this New Year's. And I'm so appreciative of you being with us today. You know, the first thing is to look at anything in our tangible world and to try to discern where it came from. Why would we do this? Because through this, we could recognize this principle if we're aware of it. Everything returns to this idea of first cause. For example, a skyscraper is first in anything really, but I use a skyscraper, is first an idea in someone's mind, right? The mind of the architect. And then there's so much knowledge that goes into it. But all that comes down to ideas and thoughts and the scientific knowledge that's passed down through generations of civil engineers and all the way back. And it's like timeless information and so forth. Well, what is this information? It all comes back to the one mind, one universal, meaning we all are of and in that mind and have access to that mind of every thought that's ever been thunk, as I like to say. And so if we're trying to understand God in a different way as a concept, then, you know, we can just look around us and begin to go, oh, like everything was first an idea. Where did that come from? Where did that idea come from? Right? Well, that comes from often used again, Ernest Holmes' first cause. Not the first cause again, like that first domino, but the cause of all things, to create the divine creator, the divine architect of all things. In Living Science of Mind, from Ernest Holmes, he shares that we live in a spiritual universe. As such, God is all there is, all possibility, all action. For spirit is the invisible essence and substance of all form. So the essence is a kind of that space in between what we can't see, and the substance is what we can see. So in the seen and unseen, it's all one. Yeah, we're going to hammer this point down because it's still, as much as I hear it's all one, I continue through the last 17 years or so that I've been on this journey to understand that in a different way. That, you know, when I have a connection with maybe an animal, or I'm just in the right place at the right time, and I feel like, wow, like that pure oneness, like, oh, it's really all one. I'm not really separate. I feel like I'm living a separate life. So number two, when we see the world with this new awareness that it's all one, then we both create and respond from this new awareness. Now that's big. Depending on how we choose to see the world is what we're saying, then we create our reality and live from that creation. And we see past appearances and bring that into the future. Now, this comes easily to us when we look at nature. That's one of the easiest things. For example, we can look at a tree and how a twisted branch on a big tree can be a thing of beauty. As it's a raging stream next to it. It all depends on what we're open to. But again, that beauty must start here with this, the I am. Going back to what Jesus of Nazareth taught, you know, the I and the Father are one. That shows again the unity right there. He didn't say it's I'm here and the Father's there. And no, we're one, meaning wherever he is, he was, he lived, he felt that presence. We follow that same line of thought. So even though this is called New Thought, it's New Thought, Ancient Wisdom is what it's called, because this is not new with regards to like 21st century new. And when we see that this is a spiritual universe, we can work with it, you know, rather than against it. That's that shift of consciousness from living a to me life. Life is happening to me. I don't have any control. What can I do? We kind of go, right? That's kind of giving up because we don't recognize our power. We don't recognize who we truly are. But when we do, we tap into a limitless power. And it's a power that we use for our good. And of course, as for our good, it affects everyone. what keeps us from living that amazing life? Well, this is kind of the third part is we tend to believe in these ideas called false beliefs, superstitions, and they get in the way of our understanding of divine truth. Ernest Holmes says, where is it here? What is the science in his book, Living the Science of Mind, that everything which is opposed to good is nothing more than I can't speak today. Is nothing more than accumulation of human thought and a collective negative suggestion of the collective consciousness. So let me simplify this. What he's saying is it's us looking at something as to what it's not. So we have this belief, and it's not wrong or right, because in the moment it's right until it's proven wrong to us. And sometimes we have to live that way. But when we recognize that we are one and this whole concept of God is everywhere and it's just there and I can use it or not, just like this idea of electricity, right? We still really kind of don't know what it is. We can't really create our own. We can harness it in a sense, but it was always there since the beginning of time until our minds finally got the awareness of it. And is it good or is it bad? I don't know. I've heard it said that it can cook a meal and it can cook a person. So what is it? Well, it's something that we can use to help us live a freer, fuller, more expanded life. And how does that sound for this new year? Right? Raise your hand if you want to live a freer, fuller, more expanded life. Yes. Right? Why? Because it's infinite. There are infinite possibilities. There's a lot of, in Living Science of Mind, he talks about the Declaration of Principles, Ernest Holmes does. And so it's definitely worth a good read. And one of the things he says about it is this. He says, back of all form, there is a divine substance. Hid with every appearance, there is an adequate cause. If we judge by the appearance alone, as though it were self-created, we are mistaking the shadow for the substance. So we have to remember to me, the way what I hear in this and take from this is, again, behind the form, it's all God. And so if we look at something, what just came to my head was like a hairy tarantula spider and go, ooh, that's nasty, that's gross, ill, then that may be a simple opinion, but we're limiting our experience of it because that is God in expression and form too. And so he's saying if we only judge by appearance, and this can get really deep because we can look at maybe a fight that we have, maybe with a loved one, and we say, oh, that's bad by the appearance of it. We could be harsh on ourselves, we could be harsh on them. But if we have come from this idea, this concept of God and this ever-loving God that is everywhere present, and we go, oh, where is the God in this? And then find it, become aware of it, even in that argument, which then helps us evolve together, or even if it's just by myself, I realize I don't want to be that. Or I realize that I reacted to so-and-so, and I don't want to be someone who reacts. I want to be someone who responds so I can use my mind within all of life. Then is that bad or good? And what I believe Ernest Holmes is saying with regards to this quote is, we should just be very careful about how we look at things, particularly just in physical form, of how they appear initially. And we do that often. We find ourselves in negative places because of this idea that we're separate. And about this idea of being separate, Holmes says, when God is all there is no duality. Duality is a symptom of our error thinking. When we live in harmony with the allness of spirit, we are living in the unity that is the truth. So let's go back to that idea of the spider again. If there is no duality, there is no me and something else, there's just me and the world as one. Now, yes, I am an individualized aspect of the spirit, and I can look at another individualized aspect, this hairy spider, and I can look at it and say, can I get to the point where I say it's beautiful? Why could I say that? Because I may not necessarily appreciate certain things like, ooh, the hairiness. At first, I look at that and I go, ew, it's icky, it's blah, blah, blah. But then if I go back into my thinking, what told me that the hairy thing was icky and scary? Probably I picked that up unconsciously from someone else. And they saw it and screamed and said, ooh, it's icky and scary. And as a young boy, I said, okay, that's true. And I just repeated. I mimicked what I saw. It was an unconscious following. What do I mean by that? Not unconscious like knocked out, but I wasn't really thinking. Now, as an adult, and even as a young adult, as a teenager, we have the power to think what is good, what is not. You know, leaning into our faith has been especially challenging these past few years because there's just been a lot of, I'll call it, darkness present in our lives through the pandemic, through this war going on with the Ukraine and Russia, through the racial and cultural events that have come up. It's been an upheaval. And, you know, as religious scientists, we recognize that these are symptoms of error thinking, and the divine goodness that is everything remains in the midst of it all, despite appearances. Again, this goes again to a deeper level of what Holmes is saying. And this does take a deep level of faith, because it's not them and I, it's one. Now, I may not love what's going on, and I recognize there's a better way. And can I sit back and, in a sense, use the power of our mind and see the good in what maybe I can't see right away? I just allow that to be. I allow it to percolate in my mind. One of the reasons why I spend time doing this is because I want someone to do it for me. I want them to see when I show up not my best. I want them to look at that as maybe a rare event, and for them to learn well from it, and maybe to even teach me something about myself. So, like I said, it's a big idea, this big topic of this concept of God. And I want to share again that there were times that and still times that I struggle, like, because it's really comfortable to think of, there's this being up in the sky that's going to take care of me. And the reason that feels comfortable is because I feel like I'm off the hook, right? Because if it doesn't go well, it's not my fault. What was I going to do? And so what that really does for me is it pads a victim mentality. When I recognize that I am part of that spirit, I am that spirit showing up. I am, in a sense, the problem and the solution all in one. Then I take a greater, and I'm going to say a sacred responsibility about how I show up and how I look at other people showing up. And can I look at them at all times with compassion? Can I look at the world with compassion, with empathy, with love? And these are words we say a lot, but if we're honest with ourselves, we do struggle with it. And that's the truth. You know, there are times when I lose my temper, and that's just part of this human experience. And I aim to grow better each and every time I become aware of it. And so we're coming to the end of the talk, and we shared a little bit from different philosophies and texts about this idea of God as a concept. And the last one I wanted to share is the Chinese Tao. And basically, it's defined as the absolute principle underlying the universe, combining with itself the principles of yin and yang, and signifying the way. That's a big thing, cause should really probably be capitalized, or code of behavior that is in harmony with the natural order. So the Chinese Tao, the book Tao Te Ching, was really famous for it, for this simplistic and flowing writing. It's beautiful. And I want to share a story with regards to that. And the story is called Strike the Bell Hard with Faith. And it goes like this. A new disciple asks his Tao master, how can I get myself ready for the training? He says, think of me as a bell. Tap me softly, you get a tiny ding. Strike me hard, and you receive a loud and roaring chime. Tao is like a bell, he says, and faith is clapper. Strike Tao with faith, and the connection reverberates music of the universe. The harder you strike, the more resonant and beautiful the melody of the vibration. If he goes on to say, if you open yourself to the Tao will eagerly welcome you. If you open yourself to virtue, virtue will become a part of you. If you open yourself to loss, the lost are glad to see you. When you do not trust people, people will become untrustworthy. So it's again, I love one of my mottos is simply profound. It's a simple teaching, but when you follow it, it's profound. So what we can do this week to use this idea of God as a concept, because again, there's a whole class on this, but for today's talk, maybe this last quote will help. It's by Pema Chodron, excuse me. She says, one can appreciate and celebrate each moment. There's nothing more sacred. There's nothing more vast or absolute, excuse me. In fact, there's nothing more. So once again, what if we spent this next, I'm going to say year, to be honest with you, for me, is appreciating and celebrating each moment and finding it as sacred. No matter where I'm at, no matter what I'm doing, no matter who I'm with, can I find this idea as the life that I'm living is oneness, and showing up in this idea everywhere is this concept of God, of love. It's everywhere. Can I tap into that? That is a practice, I believe, worth putting my time to. So last but not least, our first affirmation of 2023. Here it is. I'm going to take a breath for a minute here, because I like to say it with energy. It's the energy behind our words that matters, folks. There is one divine creative source back of all life. I am that living source. All right. So take that with you, please, this new year. I'm going to move into our closing prayer here. Oh, I'm breathing deep. I'm so excited for this new year. So many things to be grateful for. I am just absolutely knowing that divine presence, whatever we call God or source or universal principle, whatever it is that feels right in our heart is right. It's still a part of it. And we open ourselves to more. And I'm knowing that the divine source of all is infinite. So it's always providing of itself more. I know that everyone that hears my voice is experiencing that more, that good, right here, right now, and always. They choose to tap into it. They choose, like a radio station, to tune into it, right on that perfect dial where the harmony of all life is heard and felt and experienced in this life, right here and right now. That this new year we are willing to be aware of things we weren't before, because we have a stronger and greater faith like we've never had before. We open and we trust first ourselves, and then life itself showing up. We're aware of all the good with a capital G in our lives. And we hold this community of Center for Spiritual Living, St. George, sacred. We give our positive thoughts and energy to it, our time, our tithe, and our talents, knowing that it does good work in the community. It is our spiritual home, and we love it. We are it, and so it is. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Joe. Great talk for the start of the year. Lots of little nuggets. I love this time of year where we go back to basics, is what we used to call it.
Right.
And obviously, are the upcoming talks kind of written around that, or?
Right. Yep. Going back
Okay.
to principle, and it's fascinating because it's like, how many different ways can you say something, and you just keep finding, because we live our lives, that spiral life, we see something in a new way when we're open to it.
Every year.
Yeah.
I love going back to the basics because
And you've been at it so much longer than I have, so I can't imagine.
Well, and every year I still want more, and I like the basics. It just keeps reminding me.
Yeah.
As we remind each other. Well, thank you. Great talk. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to the family. I love you. Be good. We'll see you next week.
Sounds good.
Okay. Wow, great talk, wasn't it? So we got our announcements coming up, and we do have our affirmation, and we do have a slideshow, and we have all kinds of things happening before my eyes. It's a miracle of this new year that things just flash before my eyes of different things. I wish I could see those all again. Anyway, back to the announcements. So we do have our community care circle. The phone number for that is 435-893-6702. And that is if you have a family member or a friend who is in need of support in the community, please call that number, and we have a team of people that will address some of your concerns and maybe help in some way or another. And as always, our prayer requests go out to prayer@CSLSGeorge.org. All of the practitioners receive those emails with the prayer request. We all pray on it. If requested, we will contact you for further prayer support. So, number 3, no Zoom today. We're allowing everyone to just chill out today, being at the first day of the year, and all of us included. So there is no Zoom meeting. And on January 5th, our book club returns. That will be with Sue. You can email her. Our social gathering and visioning is from 10 to 1:30, and you will find the details in the newsletter and on the website. And now it's time for our tithes and offerings. You can scan the QR code with your cell phone on the picture. It'll take you right to the link. You can also go to our CSLSG.org website on the donation page. We do have the new Zelle that we're utilizing. It's a bank-to-bank transfer system. There are the instructions in the newsletter. So please, we're grateful for you guys being there for us, keeping our center going, and getting us into a new location. So this year, we're going to have our own space back. I just know it. So our upcoming Sunday, as I just said, that we'll see Joe next Sunday, the 8th, and that topic is God as a Concept. And on January 15th, the Universal Voice. All back to basics, new conversations. Now, if you are new to CSL, please just join us specifically for the next few weeks, because it's a lot of information. So now it's time for our closing affirmation. Marina's going to bring everybody in. I see everybody's little bloopy faces. There's Marina. And here we all are. Yay, yay, yay. And I will start the affirmation by saying, something wonderful is happening through me right now.
It is this thing called life.
Life is in my mind. Life is in my body. Life is in all that I do.
I am it, I embrace it, and I share it.
Just the way that it is.
And just the way that it is becoming. Thank
you, life.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Bye. Love you guys. No Zoom meeting.